Hello, my name is Mage, and welcome to Black and White Thinking, and to another feminist ranty edition of whatever the hell this is. Today I want to talk about some recent updates in regards to the divorce of Angelina Jolie and her husband, and I'm going to talk about it in the larger scope of rights for women and children, and specifically by women and their children.
For the first time, there are also protections for women and children who allege abuse during custody disputes. For months, Angelina met with individual senators on Capitol Hill pushing that. At one press conference, getting emotional.
Most of all, I want to acknowledge the children who are terrified and suffering at this moment, and the many people for whom this legislation comes too late.
So as the thumbnail says, it's happening again, both for Angelina specifically and for another crazy bi woman in Hollywood. As if Anne Hesh wasn't enough for you monsters this year. For people who have better things to do with their time than I do, Brad Pitt, this dude, an Oscar-winning actress, and UN humanitarian Angelina Jolie have split up after a decade of marriage because he allegedly punched her, choked her, punched and choked her children whilst on a flight. Now, much like the recent debacle with Amber Heard and her waste of an ex-husband, even though the male counterpart in this relationship has admitted violence and abuse, as Johnny Depp admitted multiple times that he had abused Amber Heard, Brad Pitt has admitted that he abused Angelina Jolie. He claims it was one incident between her, him, and one of their children, one time on a plane. Anyone that knows anything about abuse will question that story. But naturally, he's pushing this narrative that, yes, he lost control once, but Angelina is an evil witch who is poisoning his children against him, trying to steal all of his money as if she has none of her own, and wants him to suffer in the public eye. So yeah, like I said, it's happening again. This is not the first time that Angelina has faced this kind of backlash. It's definitely the worst, because she has children now, and Brad Pitt is unfortunately the father of those children. But as Amber Heard was unfortunately naive, and I hate to say that, to the world she entered when dating Johnny Depp, the world she was groomed into, let's be real, Angelina is not a woman that requires my protection. Not to say that Amber requires my protection, but you get what I'm saying. Angie is incredibly sensitive, artistic, loving, but she's also got a backbone. She has done this before. Angie has been famous since she was a child, and people have been terrible to her since she was a child. They've been terrible to her because she is both a child of nepotism, but also a child of an absent father. She was groomed by quite a few older guys early in her acting career, one of whom she married. She was lauded by the media and the press generally in the late 90s and early 2000s. She was painted as this manic, bisexual, wild child who nobody could control. And I think for a lot of people who don't remember that time because they may be slightly younger than I am, Angie did a lot to flip her image in the last decade and a half. There's been a big change in Angie's public persona from, say, when she was in Girl Interrupted and winning her Oscar, and the strange things people decided to say about her and her brother for no good reason, to meeting Brad and the whole Angie versus Jen thing, all the way to now and how people see her generally. A lot of Angie's re-imaging has not come from her bravery when talking about personal issues, cancer and her mastectomy, the adoption of her children, surviving parental abuse, her humanitarian work all over the world. A lot of the peace in Angie's life from the press, and there has not been a lot of it, has come because she's been quiet over the last decade because she's been raising her children. Her children are older now, hence why they are putting up with less of their father's shit, and half of them don't even live at home. So that image will die down quickly as she divorces Brad Pitt, and as these allegations continue to come to light, as we learn more about them because the FBI is involved, Angie naturally is going to get the short straw here, even though she has a better reputation as a human being, a parent, and an actor than Brad Pitt. Because we still haven't learned anything, right? And I talked about this in my Amber Heard video. Nothing is changing. Well, I say nothing. Some things have changed, but not enough for it to matter, and especially not for it to matter to bisexual women. Watch this space, but I can't help but feel like the next demon outside of Evan Rachel Wood will be Angelina Jolie, because Angie's such a great demon. Like I said, she's played that role before, and she was great at it. She was great at being sarcastic and kind of playing the press at their own games, and it became a real cat and mouse back in the day. I don't think she'll play those games with the press anymore. She's far too mature and old and a mother now. Like, she has way better things to do with her time. But the press remember, and the press never forgets. And there's a commonality here. I always make the commonality between bi women and the staggering amount of abuse we face as a group. But also there is a commonality amongst men here, right? Recently there has been, and again, I spoke about this in my Amber Heard video, an obvious backlash to the Me Too movement, especially within Hollywood spaces, a space that tried to hijack that movement, however you want to see it. Noel Clarke decided he was going to sue his victims. Marilyn Manson is suing Evan Rachel Wood, both having taken a note out of Johnny Depp's handbook. Shia LaBeouf is on a redemption tour, praising Jesus and making Twig's life hell. And even Brad Pitt, who for all my ills, I always thought was smarter than this. Smarter than Johnny Depp, for sure. One of the ways that he is trying to get back at Angelina at the moment is by suing her. Not suing her for the claims of abuse, which he admits to, the children are witnesses to, all 6 of them, people on the flight who were flying the plane, working on the plane saw. He can't deny that, right? But he does share a wine chateau with Angelina Jolie, of which he is trying to eternally tie her into, even though she doesn't want anything to do with it. She wants to sell her heart to him, which he agreed to do a few years ago. However, he will only buy her out and let her go if she agrees to not speak about any of their relationship or anything to do with the children and his relationship with them ever, which she bravely and rightly has replied saying, no, I'm not going to sign something with such an abuse clause attached to it. And she used those words because, like I said, Angelina is not green, she's not fresh, she again has done this before. And when I was following what happened with Amber Heard for the past, honestly, 5 years, 6 years, I've been really worried about Amber's mental health. I'm less worried about Angie's. I am more worried about the press themselves and how they're going to use this to influence how all bi women are painted, which I also worried about in regards to Amber Heard, but obviously my point being that I worried more about waking up to the news that Amber Heard had self-deleted one day than I am about Angie, especially now that she has 6 children. I think anyone that wants to come at Angie for her parenting is a joke. One of those people is obviously Brad Pitt. He's made many a comment through his representatives to multiple media sites about how she is alienating their children from him. But I personally remember being 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, the ages these children are, and no one was making me hang out with my dad, or not hang out with my dad. No one could make me do anything in that regard. I'm pretty sure Angie isn't forcing her kids to do anything either way. Genuinely, when was the last time you saw Brad Pitt happy with his children? Because I can and will put many examples up on the screen of Angie recently with her children, looking happy, doing things together, normal, boring mum stuff. From campus tours to film premieres. When was the last time anyone saw Brad Pitt with his children? The last time anyone can say that they were all in a room with him was when they were on that plane and he was abusing them. Because the things that he has been accused of aren't nice. Like, we're not talking daddy yelled at us and we got upset. We're not talking a moment of righteous parenting. We're talking about serious violence. When you see Brad Pitt's case against Angelina Jolie about the chateau laid out against her counterclaim of his abuse, it's insane to think that he thinks they're comparable. To quote Variety, and I'll link the article below, Pitt filed a lawsuit against Jolie earlier this year, accusing her of violating contractual rights after she sold her half of Chateau Maraval without his knowledge. Jolie's lawyers claim in the countersuit that discussion with Pitt's team about selling her side of the company broke down after he demanded she sign a non-disclosure agreement that would have contractually prohibited her from speaking outside of court about Pitt's physical and emotional abuse of her and their children. According to the countersuit, Pitt choked one of their children and struck another in the face and grabbed Jolie by the head and shook her during the 2016 altercation. Jolie's lawyers state the dispute started when Pitt accused her of being too deferential to the kids. The two started fighting in the plane's bathroom. Fighting is an interesting choice of words by Variety there. Pitt grabbed Jolie by the head and shook her, and then grabbed her shoulders and shook her again, before pushing her into the bathroom wall, the countersuit reads. Pitt then punched the ceiling of the plane numerous times, prompting Jolie to leave the bathroom. The countersuit states that Pitt attempted to get physical with one of their children after the child came to Jolie's defense. I'm not going to continue, you get it. My main point with this video, other than to just get this off my chest, because I'm just really bloody over this. I'm so angry that this is happening again and again and again. My real point is that I hope by making this video, at least some of us can get out in front of it, right? I feel like a big issue with Amber Heard was that people didn't realise how big a deal that whole thing was going to be until it was. There were a lot of people, and I am one of them, that were going on for a long time, that whatever was going on with Amber Heard was going to have repercussions years ago. But that's because I spend too much time on the internet in bite spaces, right? It's not common to believe that humanity could be that bad. But having so recently again had the Amber Heard situation in our faces, I'm hoping that when inevitably the media tries to sell Angelina Jolie as an alienating, abusive Lamia, that we can be a bit more proactive in our thinking, especially again in regards to bi women. Bi women are in relationships by men more than any other sexual minority. Angelina Jolie has been out as bisexual since the 90s. Amber Heard has been out as bisexual since the early 2000s. We have to start acknowledging this for what it is. I know I talk about it all the time on this channel. We have to start advocating for ourselves, for each other. We have to start requiring other women to advocate for us. We need to get the education out there that this is a cycle that repeats itself. To the richest, whitest women like Angelina Jolie, to the poorest bi woman who probably won't get a place at a shelter tonight. It all matters, right? And paying attention to this story and the absolute BS that Pitt is spouting now and will continue to spout, will pay the press to spout, being educated on the source of that, seeing these things for what they are, I think that's what's going to push us forward. Angelina Jolie is doing us a favour by having this fight. Amber Heard did us a favour by having that fight. They're not nice fights. And our pain has just been shadowed. It's been erased, non-existent. We have another opportunity here to make a stand over the next few months, years, as this all plays out in front of us. And I hope we do. This one's just been some feelings about how hard it can be to be a bi woman sometimes. I hope you're all well. Thanks for putting up with me. Stay safe. Mage out.